Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Everyday Heroes podcast. This is episode number 40, and we have an amazing guest. We have Yllenna Thompson coming on from AIIM Choices, who's going to be talking all about plan management. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes, maybe all the time, it can be really difficult. Sorry, I'm just going to go live. It can be really difficult to navigate what is the NDIS, how to manage all the invoices, how to manage life when you are raising an autistic child. Because I don't know about you, but I feel like raising the autistic child is super difficult already. And then when you put on top of that all of the extra stuff that comes with the invoicing and the therapist and this and that, it just can get so much. And so that's why it's so important that we can share information about plan managers who can actually help you so much more with your life. So I would love to welcome Yllenna into our Everyday Heroes podcast. Welcome, Yllenna. How are you going?
Good, thanks, Natalie. Thank you for having me. Really excited.
So excited to have you here. So let's first just talk a little bit about NDIS. Now, there's been so many changes since last year. Last October, there have been an influx of changes, and parents have been contacting me left, right, and center about what's going on. How do we move forward? What can we buy? What can we not buy? Is this appropriate to buy? There's so many questions because we're really not sure. So are those changes, are they affecting the participants that are actually already on the NDIS scheme?
Unfortunately, some of the changes will impact on it. How it impacts on our services, though, doesn't. I think it's been well documented that plan managers haven't received any increase. In fact, they've actually taken away the establishment fee, which will impact on all plan managers, not just AIIM Choices, but it doesn't impact on the service that we're able to give to our participants that we have with us. But yeah, I mean, there are things that were in that are now out, but we do our best with working with our participants, with support coordinators, to make sure that they're well informed about the changes and how it's impacting on them.
Keep up. Like, I feel like I'm in the industry and I wouldn't know my head from my butt when it comes to this NDIS stuff, because it just changes so quickly. And I don't have time. Like, let's be honest, Yllenna, I don't have time to read through a 500-page document to figure out if I can buy therapy or not. Like,
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot. And there's a lot of things going on. And this is why I'm grateful that we even have plan managers to be able to assist with that, because this is you guys, this is your bread and butter. And so this is why it's so important to have people to reach out to so that you can get that expert advice. So can you just share with us a little bit more about what AIIM Choices does and what they offer clients?
Yeah, so predominantly we are plan managers. We pay the invoices, we make sure that everything is compliant. As you just said, with all of the changes, it becomes harder and harder to make sure that things are compliant. So when somebody is self-managed, they don't have that to go to as a backup. So we have a big range of experience with our plan managers, and we have plan managers that look out for certain changes. So they're always on to, whenever the changes are coming out, and they will, study up on that, and then they will inform the team. With AIIM Choices, as plan managers, the participants actually have their own plan manager. So they can contact that plan manager directly. They don't have to worry about coming through to a switchboard. They go directly to their plan manager. If the plan manager doesn't know the answer, because it could be a change that's just come out, then our plan managers, they actually meet every day at 11:30, and they will discuss all of any of the changes or any questions that somebody doesn't know the answers to. And because we have a broad range of experience in our plan managers, and we have different plan managers that look out for different changes, so those 11:30 meetings are used to educate the other plan managers on the changes that are happening, so that we are making sure that we are up to date with all of the latest changes that the NDIS are introducing. So that's our first service, is the plan management. The other thing that we also do is, if somebody doesn't have a support coordinator and they need help with a plan review, then we can help them with that as well. And the third thing that we do is we actually help people who want to get onto the NDIS apply for the NDIS. So we'll go through, step by step and guide them through that process, because sometimes they just don't want to do it on their own. It can be a minefield to navigate. And so to be able to guide them through that so that we can make it less traumatic for them. And then obviously we're hoping that their chances of getting onto the NDIS first time around is a higher level. But we also take people who have applied before, that, they've applied and they've been rejected and they haven't known why they've been rejected. So we can have a look at what they've presented, and we can ask the right questions to find out whether any circumstances have changed that may increase the likelihood of them getting a plan.
Are you finding a lot of people are being rejected now more because of the changes since October, or that really hasn't changed?
I don't think it has changed. I think the criteria has always been there. But then again, we've got to look at the NDIS has their definition as to what a disability is.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, sorry, go ahead. You go.
The difference between, what is a disability and what is a medical condition.
Yes, very true. Very, very true. And it's hard because I'm hearing a lot of parents being knocked back and plans being slashed, but I'm also hearing other plans being, getting a robust plan more than maybe a child needs. And so then it's sort of hard to try and make sense of, where the money's going and where the money's not going. And so, do you have any, thoughts on that?
I think there's more probably of cuts than there is of people getting bigger plans. But then there's also a case, there are cases where they have been severely underfunded for years. And then, they actually are able to put through, with experience and probably with help, to be able to get those bigger plans that they need.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So obviously, when you're a plan manager, you're submitting an invoice to the plan managers to get it paid. What happens if you send an invoice to AIIM Choices and the invoice looks wrong, or you're not sure, or it's being rejected for whatever reason? What happens in those cases?
So in those cases, from the provider, what we do is we will contact the provider and we'll let them know what's wrong with the invoice for a start. Get clarification if clarification is needed. But if it's a simple case of their, using the wrong line item, then we will correct them and get them to amend the invoice. If something that doesn't look right, again, we can also use that as a question for our 11:30 meeting with the other plan managers. It can be used as, and it's good because from there we can come across other plan managers that may be having the same problems with certain providers. And then we can, train them to make sure that they are getting it right. But then ultimately we do have, the guidelines from the NDIS. So people, participants need to understand that if it has been rejected by us, and we say, well, the NDIS aren't going to cover it, it's because we've tried all means to be able to find a way of being able to submit it. We don't just look at the first one, we look at it, okay, so can it come out of this? Can it come out of that? And they're the discussions that our plan managers have on a daily basis.
Yeah, I love that. I love that it's not just a one and done thing, that you guys are looking at all aspects of it, because most parents, my goodness, the cost of therapy, not that I'm saying that there shouldn't be a cost, but there is a cost, and trying to do it without the NDIS funding, it would be almost impossible. So, trying to navigate that to the best of your ability so you can get the most out of your plan for your child it's paramount.
Yeah, exactly. And, if we can help people in any way to do that, we want to be able to do that for sure.
Yeah, I love that, because it's really tricky. Sometimes you have a parent who has just come into this autism journey. They're grieving, they're sad, they're overwhelmed, they're fearful, they're not sure what the future is going to look like, and they're getting paperwork thrown at them left, right, and center. Okay, you've got to get onto NDIS, you've got to get an early intervention, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. And it can feel very overwhelming because you just wouldn't even know where to start. Even for parents who are well versed in using computers and doing all the forms, I think sometimes it can just be too much. Like some parents just don't have the capacity to be able to put all of that information in because you maybe you're not sleeping, maybe you're drinking too much, maybe you're coping with using another coping mechanism, maybe you're having relationship problems. Like there are so many factors that come into this, which is so important that we know that plan managers exist and why there's an importance for that.
A lot a lot of people think that with the plan manager is that they lose control. And that's why they go with self-management. And it's not the case. You know, with plan management, and particularly with AIIM, you have choice and control. You know, and we work with the families or the participants to make sure that, you know, how they want things to work is how it's working. We can, you know, have it so that we're automatically paying invoices. We can have it so that they've got to approve the invoice. We work per person to make sure that we're working how they want us to work.
And that's great customization, right? That's an ability that you can really just make sure that every person has that personalized approach, which is what the episode is called, to be able to make it so that it's tailored, so that you feel comfortable and that you don't feel like you're losing that control, because that's not what any parent would want.
No.
But just going into the NDIS for a second, what is the eligibility criteria for an NDIS application? Because, you know, my boy is 10 now. We've been on the NDIS for quite some time. And so things most likely have changed since he first got on. So I'm also just really curious and keen to see how things have changed as well.
Okay. So the criteria part probably hasn't really changed that much. You need to be an Australian citizen or a permanent resident with a permanent visa. You need to live in Australia or have a protected special category visa. And these are for citizens of New Zealand. An NDIS, you need to be covers up to the age of 65. So as long as you've been approved, I think it's by 64, 64 and a half. If you're already on the NDIS, then it's you're on the NDIS for life. So whether you go through the aged care or through the NDIS, you can't obviously do both, but it's whichever works best for the individual. You also need to have a formal diagnosis and have evidence to support that application. So that's mainly the main focus. And then obviously, you know, for those that are under 9, then you've got the early intervention side of things as well.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. It's good to know that things haven't really changed that much, which is because it's always nerve-wracking for parents, because that's the first thing that they want to know. Like, oh gosh, what do we need? What is the criteria? We don't want to miss out, but we also don't know what needs to happen. So roughly, what's the time frame? What's the time frame application to even get an NDIS plan approved?
How long is a piece of string?
So true.
It is so true. Yeah, the NDIS, I mean, it does come down to the NDIS. It's going to come down to the backlog. It's going to come down to, you know, how fast and things, how complex the plan is. Obviously, if it's more complex, it's going to take more time. And I suppose it's also going to depend on, you know, how well the application and the evidence is there. It's like if they've got to go backwards and forwards and, you know, ask for more information. But that's where with us, and we're making sure that we've actually got all of that evidence before we actually submit or get them to submit their application. I mean, we have heard times, you know, of in the past that, you know, it could take up to 12 months. You can have times where it's going to be a few months. It just really does depend on the NDIS.
Yeah, absolutely. And would you say, in your expert opinion, that you're seeing a lot more children come through NDIS being diagnosed a lot more, like versus maybe a few years back?
Yes.
Yeah. And why do you think that is?
Awareness, probably. I think it's a lot of the parents. Everybody has heard of the NDIS, and I think schools are probably a lot more versed in it as well, and it's bringing it to parents' attention earlier. And obviously, early intervention. The reason why there is that early intervention is that hopefully down the track is they may not need any of these services. That's the goal. Is as we get in early, then the children's outcomes are going to be much better.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. Yeah, and there's a lot. I would suspect, and look, I don't have evidence to base this. This is just what I've heard on the grapevine. Is that that there were a lot of misdiagnoses over lockdowns, right? Because parents obviously weren't trained in trying to see these symptoms, or not. I shouldn't say symptoms. That's the wrong word. To see these attributes of autism, and know that that's what it was, right? And so therefore you have a situation where a child needs the funding, but because of that delay, because no one could really assess them in that time, I was hearing pediatricians and child psychologists the lists were endless. The waiting lists were just humongous. And so do you think that also adds to the influx of people getting diagnosed as well?
Oh, it could do. Yeah. I mean, it is crazy is we're still talking about lockdown.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like it's two different lifetimes. It's before COVID, after COVID.
It's so true. Okay, and so what happens after however much time has passed and you get the application approved? What do parents do then?
So once we've helped them through the application process, they've been approved for a plan. So the next thing is that they will need to have a planning meeting to determine what funds they're going to get. So what we will do with them is we will actually have a pre-planning meeting so that we highlight what the diagnosis is and what services they're going to need. Because even though they've been approved as a plan, they've got the experience with the child, sometimes they don't realise what to ask for. So our team that works in this area, they know what to ask for. They will then turn around and they will ask the questions of the family to make sure that, this is, the question, they'll answer it, and then they'll turn around and say, well, you're going to need this amount for this and this amount for that. So when they actually have their planning meeting to determine what funds they're going to get, they know what to ask for. And if they require, and we quite mostly will advocate for them in that planning meeting as well, if that just in case that they stumble and they need help with actually what they ask for.
I find that happens so much with parents because I'm just thinking back to when my experience, the first thing that we were told with NDIS is it's just generally used for speech and OT and maybe a little bit of psych if needed. And I just think, yes, speech and OT are so paramount, right? They are so important when you are raising an autistic child. However, and there is a big however here, our children are not monkeys. You cannot go to a 45-minute session and okay, let's go, stop performing. Like, I'm paying for this. We're on the clock. Let's go.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that can be really difficult because then parents are getting frustrated because maybe Billy isn't doing the things that he needs to do, or isn't being compliant, or isn't, able to perform, during that time. And that makes it really hard because then parents feel like, oh gosh, I'm wasting all this money. I don't know what to do. And so I think another option, and I don't know if this is something that you recommend to clients, is to coach the parent on the speech and OT to be able to do that in outside hours, because sometimes we just can't do that, then and there. Maybe Billy's had a really rough night and just doesn't have the capacity to be able to do speech or OT at that point in time. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when we're working with, with a participant, we work with the whole family. We don't just work with the participant. At AIIM Choices, our philosophy is that we will wrap our arms around our participants and their families to ensure that they, meet their goals. And by doing that, that's the reward for us. But it's doing those basic things that, obviously, we're a business and we want to grow, but we also grow at a rate that's sustainable for our current participants plus any new participants that we get. So,
and yeah. No, you go ahead. I cut you off there. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I was going to say that's what's it's really important that we're able to do that.
And also having someone in your corner, right? Yeah. Having someone who has expert knowledge, who's up to date, who knows what's going on, because most of us are walking in blind. Like, most parents are just going, unless you've had experience in the NDIS, most parents are walking and going, not sure what to do, what to spend this money on, don't know if I'm doing this the right way, all the extra bits and pieces.
It's so complex. There's so much to it. So once we've actually, they've gone through their planning meeting and they've got their plan, and it comes to, okay, let's implement the plan. So obviously, we would love to have them on as a plan managed client of ours. It's not compulsory. Just because we help them through this application process, it doesn't mean they have to stay with us. But obviously they're going to want to, because we've been able to give them, help them get onto this life-changing, journey, that they will stay with us. But ultimately it does come down to their choice and their control.
Yeah, no, I love that. Where can people find you?
So our website is www.aim.com.au. So our head office is based in Wodonga. So that's where our business started, but we have staff remotely. We work remotely around Australia. So in most of the capital cities, we're available. We've also, contact our head office, and then they can put you through to where you need. My people can contact me. My email address is ythompson@aim.com.au, and then I can put them on to who they would need to go to.
Perfect. And just so for anyone listening, it's AIM, which is AIIM.
Yes, thank you for clarifying. That's going to be confusing, doesn't it?
No, that's okay, because I just didn't want them to be like clicking into AIM and then thinking, where are we going?
Yes, yeah.
That's great. Is there anything else you'd love to add before we go to rapid fire questions?
Oh, let me think. I was thinking of something, and then I'm just like, oh, it's gone out of my head again now. But it is, we, a lot of people say that they're a person-centered business and all of that, but with AIM, it comes down from the owner of the business, and it's the whole way through, and you're going to get that personalized service with AIM Choices. And obviously, there's not everyone is for everyone, and if it's something that we would find that there's a better fit elsewhere, then we can do that. We work with a lot of support coordinators. We work with a lot of businesses as well. On our website, we have a provider directory. So if parents that are out there and they don't know where to find some services because they are self-managed, on our website, which is www.aim, so AIIM.com.au, and then provider directory, they can type in the area that they're in, and they can type in the type of service that they're after, and then they will be able to have that narrowed down. And so we're out there and we're constantly working with new providers and making sure, we vet them before we put them on the website. And then it's not something obviously we can control 100%. And if we find that, something's not working, then we will make sure that we're always amending that so that we are having the right services up there.
Amazing service that you offer, because not many people do have that, and that's such a great place for new parents to start so that they can sort of figure out what the next steps are. So that's great.
We do a lot of networking, and and obviously we pay a lot of invoices, so we know what providers that are out there. So why not work with these providers and then help the families?
Oh, I love it so much. All right, ready for rapid fire questions?
Oh, yep. Okay, hit me.
Don't get too scared. It's all going to be lots of fun. So how has your perspective on autism changed over the years?
Since joining AIM, I mean, growing up, I had, people around me, but I one of our employees who I work closely with, she has a non-verbal autistic son, and it's changed heaps. I actually came through Wodonga on my way home from my holidays and spent some time with him, and he's absolutely beautiful. Being able to engage with him, he even came up to my husband and myself and put his arms around both of our heads and pulled it into him to give him a hug before he said goodbye. It has changed dramatically, just with my personal life and just with working with so many wonderful people.
I can hear the passion in your voice, and I love that. I love meeting people who are passionate, because that's what we need. We don't need just somebody else next in line just doing a job. We want someone who is really going to dig deep and know that they're going to do everything they can to make sure that they get the best service for those clients. So that's great. What's the most valuable lesson that you've learned from working with an autistic child?
That they're special. They're normal and they're special at the same time.
You're not broken. You're not. You are most certainly not broken.
Yeah, definitely. You may change how you approach them, but they're still human. They still need that kind, caring, and compassionate, people to, around them.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's so true. What's one tool or resource that every parent should have?
Someone to talk to. Someone to have a sounding board.
Yeah, it's because it's a tough journey, and sometimes you do need to bounce ideas off people to just even get clarity in your own mind.
Yeah,
I find I do that a lot myself. Like, just to talk, I don't necessarily want any feedback sometimes. Or sometimes I'll have clients who just be like, I just need to talk it out, just so that I can make it make sense in my brain. I'm like, yep, I'm here if you need it. So that's fine. Yeah, totally.
I've had a few parents that from my networking events, they've had providers that have turned around and said, okay, you give this person a call, and sometimes they've just wanted to offload. And just being able to be there and listen to what they're saying, and then hopefully be able to come up with solutions for them.
I've had clients just cry for the whole session, and just needed that release, that emotional release that maybe they couldn't have when they were with their family, or maybe they couldn't have it with their partner, but they felt safe enough in that container to be able to express those emotions.
Yeah, and that's where having a dedicated plan manager to them is important. Not ringing up and making an inquiry and having to repeat their story. Goodness knows how many times their plan manager is going to understand their story.
So true. So very true. Is there a book that you could recommend for parents going through the journey?
Oh, wow.
And if you can't, that's okay. If you can't off the top of your head, that's fine. If you do have one, if you get off the episode and you do have one, can you just flick it to me and I can share it with our community?
Definitely. I think, talking to my colleague that I visited on the weekend, I think she will definitely have one that I can be forward to you.
Yeah, no, that's great. And do you have a favorite motto or saying?
Well, what I said before, what we do is, we wrap our arms around our participants and our families to ensure that their goals and their needs are being met. When this was sort of first introduced to me, I was like, very sort of questionable about it. I was like, yeah, but you know what? The more that I thought about it, and the more that I grew in, working with AIIM Choices, the more I realized it's exactly what we do.
Yeah, it's so special to have that personalized approach. Is so special in a space when there's so many plan managers out there. So you do want something that's customized and really tailored around you and your family, but also having that person that one dedicated person who gets it, who knows your child inside and out, who can make recommendations for you. It's so important, because sometimes you can get just lost as a number.
Definitely. And there's one other thing that I actually completely forgot, which is another really important thing that I should have said, is that AIIM Choices is a multilingual organisation. So we have staff that speak, 15 plus different languages. So if we can set somebody, with someone who speaks their language, we want to be able to do that. So they're able to converse with us. And that's another thing I think that, is not very common. I mean, there are others that have, some different languages, but I think, 15 plus is pretty good.
So good. So very good. Oh, Yllenna, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing all the information about AIIM Choices. I know there are a lot of people looking for plan managers, so this will be such a wealth of information for them. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.